Well, this week, I fear, is a very difficult week. It is a week that I believe will cause many to go into great despair, and it is a week that will cause others to practice restrained jubilation in their homes. If by now you have not figured out, it's the last week of summer vacation, huh? And I know we've got some of our younger parishioners here praying ardently that time stops this week. And we have teachers and administrators definitely praying that time stops this week. And maybe a few parents praying for the clock to go a little quicker. So it's been a long summer. It's been a beautiful summer. And as I reflect, usually at this time of year, this last week of summer vacation, St. Gregory, the great parish, is very different than most parishes, in that most parishes, summer becomes a quiet time in the parish. And not here at St. Greg's. It's quite active. And reflecting over the weekend about the beauty of all of what we've experienced through the summertime, our week-long parish mission, our disciple camp, summer vacation Bible school, the religious education program for our high schoolers to come through. We've done 3 confirmation overnight retreats. The last one was just this past week. Certainly our weekend in Steubenville, and the list can go on and on and on. Many beautiful opportunities. And one of the beautiful things with so much contact with our youth, if it be in the family faith formation programs, the retreats, or through the JREV or EDGE programs through the summer, gives a great opportunity to connect with our young people and talk to them in ways that I often do not get. And I get a lot of questions. And this summer I was given a lot of questions to answer, and I love getting questions. And it made me reflect back. A year ago, early in summer, I received a phone call from one of our teenagers, this is a year ago, who was supposed to be confirmed this current year, this, past April. And he told me on the phone that his parents made him call me because he decided not to be confirmed. And he told me why on the phone. Basically, there were several teachings of our church that he didn't agree with, and so he didn't want to be confirmed. And I told him, I said, well, I appreciate that, and I certainly will never force you to be confirmed, and I'll be the first one to sit with your parents and tell them that I agree with you, providing that you come to see me and tell me what it is exactly you disagree with in our church's practice and tradition. And so, courageous young man that he is, he made an appointment with me. It was about 2 hours long. And he came and he started to tell me everything he disagreed with the church, and I listened, which is, not my gift. And I listened intensely, and when he was done, I said, is that everything? Yeah, that's everything. I said, okay, well, let's pull out a book and let's turn on my laptop for a few minutes. And the book I pulled out was the Catholic Catechism of the church, and the laptop I turned on to the website for the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops. And we went issue by issue, concern by concern, and read what the Catechism had to say, and in many cases was able to pull up some documents from the bishops. And I just read excerpts from them. And when I was done, I asked him a simple question. I said, what I just read to you on all of these things you raised, what I just read to you, is it the same thing as to what you thought we believed and what you said to me in the beginning? And he said, no, they're not the same at all. And we talked on how he learned the truth of what we believe and not so much the misconceptions. He eventually got back into confirmation program, was confirmed this past April, and has been very active with our parish youth ministry, which is great. We just finished the last confirmation retreat Tuesday morning through Wednesday at dinner time. And later in the evening on Tuesday, we start hitting the tougher issues. And when we were done with that segment, one of the teenagers raised the hand to ask a question, which really kind of launched us into a, conversation about a few matters of importance. We were discussing all of the key issues of our culture and how our church takes positions on them. And the one that was particularly concerning to this young person was that of same-sex marriage, and started really giving very direct questions. And as the conversation went, I could see the tension and blood pressure increasing on both sides. And I said, we're really going to cover this in deeper later, so why don't we just table this for now? And we'll definitely revisit this when we touch that subject tomorrow. And so we did, and about 2 hours worth of time dedicated to that subject on the retreat, given the importance of it in the news and culture today. And as we began, I began with a few words, and we watched a video that was about a half hour long on the subject. I was watching this person intensely to see their reactions, and I could see that they were glued when I was speaking, eyes directly on me, and as the video was being played, very glued to the video. And I thought to myself, well, either we're listening and hearing something different and changing our mind, or I'm now throwing more gasoline onto the fire. I'm not sure which way it was going. And after the small groups were done in a couple hours on the subject, Adam, our youth minister, spoke with the teenager and said, are your questions answered? Do you need anything further? Same answer as the young person the year before said, I didn't really know what we believed as a church, and I got the correct information now, and my answers are all taken care of. How often do we not understand our faith? I won't ask for a show of hands. But how often do we not really understand what it is we believe as a church? How often is it that perhaps we listen to secular opinion rather than our more than 2,000 years worth of tradition? And how often do we really listen to individuals who, in conversation, profess to really know what the church believes? They even sound as if they teach with authority, and we buy it and start to believe it ourselves, only maybe at some later moment in life to find out that they were misinformed, and then so ourselves. On the confirmation retreat, in the last small group, there was a bunch of questions we looked at, and one of the questions was basically this: what are the obstacles that you have as a teenager in your life to truly following our Catholic faith? And I heard an answer come from the mouth of a teenager that I've never heard before after 23 years of doing this. And this young man blurted it out like a second after the question was asked. He said, closed minds. He said, the greatest obstacle I have are people with closed minds to what we really believe in our church. How many of you think that was a pretty interesting answer to come from a teenager? He has experienced closed minds that he has found to be an obstacle to understanding the faith. Why do I share all that with you today? Not because I want to do a review of the summer or the retreat, but all the readings today kind of focus in the same direction, and that's on laws and rules and disciplines of faith, to follow them. The book of Deuteronomy, we hear from Moses telling the people very clearly, God has given us his statutes, And he tells us very clearly, don't add to them and don't subtract from them. The Lord has told us how we're to live our life, and to do that not just half-heartedly, but completely. We hear the same, really, in the gospel today. Jesus, this is a small excerpt of a larger passage where Jesus is addressing the scribes and the Pharisees, the leaders of the law, and he's basically accusing them, you're following all of these laws on the outside, but they're not doing anything to transform you on the inside. You really got to give your mind, your heart, your soul an openness of mind, heart, and soul to allow that inside of you to be transformed, to try to understand why you are doing things on the outside. And Jesus really says, don't just give honor with your lips or human precepts, but rather give the full consent of mind, heart, and soul. Transform your inside. James, in the second reading, really tells us to do the same. It says, don't just be a hearer of the word, be a doer of the word. Do not dilute yourself, but give your whole self over to the word. So what was the real problem of the Pharisees? The real problem of the Pharisees was the words of wisdom from our teenager on the retreat, a closed mind. They didn't want to hear, they didn't want to listen, they didn't want to be transformed, they didn't want that inside changed. They were satisfied with just doing the basic minimum on the outside. And the outside really sometimes prohibits us from doing those works of faith inside. So a simple, real thought today for us all as we bring summer to an end and move to a new year academically and in our own faith and parish life. Where are you with all of the teachings of our church? Do you really understand what it is we believe? Especially on very key issues of human life and sexual morality. Do we really understand what it is that our church teaches? Are there any teachings of our faith that you really don't understand? Maybe on the outside you're saying, well, the church told me to do it, so I'm going to do it, but I don't really know why. Does that describe you in any way? Or perhaps has someone in society, or society as itself, or the area of politics, formed you on key issues and become more important than God forming you on certain issues and transforming the inside? If any of that described you in any way, I really encourage you to take some time, as I did with that young man in my office more than a year ago. Open up the Catholic Catechism and do a little reading and study and research, and God forbid, even read the footnotes. That's freeze pages, we know, the footnotes. But even go to the footnotes, that'll point you in the direction of other sources to read, some of the encyclicals of our church, the pastoral letters of the bishops, and try to understand. This day, the simple question: do we have that outward understanding and practice of faith? And are we really committed to the renewal of mind, heart, and soul? And in order to do so, it requires maybe a little reading, a little understanding, and a whole lot of prayer before the Blessed Sacrament. We think about that this day.